The shout now. Well done, Bobby Johnson. Well done, Manchester United. Beckham. It's a Sheringham. And Solskjaer has done it. And the South saved it. United again. Ready. A magnificent goal by Robin van Persie.
Welcome to United Hour, your official Red Cafe podcast for all things Manchester United. I'm your host, Nick.
I'm Ed.
I'm Colm.
Yeah, we're recording here in the middle of the international break, Saturday night, giving us a bit of time to reflect on the last two results that have not been great. But yeah, sometimes when we take a bit of a break rather than recording straight after a match, it gives you a bit of a bigger perspective and you can think about more general themes rather than just being totally pissed off about the actual result. But yeah, 1-1 against Southampton last week, and yeah, 2-1 loss to Palace. That was even worse the week before. So yeah, I know, Colm, you definitely were like relatively upbeat last time I recorded with you. So yeah, how are you feeling now after these two results?
I feel let down because I feel like our optimism and our enthusiasm could have been better rewarded so far this season. But I'm not throwing toys out of the pram at all just yet. I still see things that I'm happy with. I'm still more engaged with our football this year than I have been, I think, for a long time, probably since Van Halen. That was probably misplaced. So there's still a lot of leeway that I'm happy to give, but it is just so frustrating.
There is a bit of a kind of deja vu feeling about it all, isn't it? Get excited again, the start of the season, new start, and then, now 4 matches in and only 5 points. But Ed, you still feeling positive, Ed?
Yeah. I'm seeing all the things I want to see, but I also think that the board might not be seeing all the things they want to see, and if the results don't pick up, Ollie might be sacked by November-ish, I think. In all honesty,
I think that is the big question that I'm, like you say, Colm, there's things that I see I'm happy with, like the kind of style of football is definitely something that I think is progressing compared to that was a big issue for me under Mourinho. And yeah, I'm prepared to give time to Ole with the younger players coming in and all. But yeah, is the board going to give him time? That is the biggest question. But really for me, like if you come in with this system of saying like we're going to promote youth, young players coming in, then if you don't give time, then it's completely ridiculous, isn't it?
I mean, it is in a sense, although I think there's the question of should I give time, but I think another question is could another manager get more out of the same squad? So it's important to kind of, he does deserve time, and it is important because we have fielded the youngest 11, youngest squad in the Premier League out of any team. We clearly have big gaps, and we are clearly relying on youth to grow into the team. I think if we had strengthened even more in the summer window and brought in, a top quality number 10, a top quality right winger, another midfielder, I think there would be more warranted criticism possibly of Ole if he was, picking the wrong teams or, not motivating his players and not getting the best out of the system. But I don't think you can say that's the case because we didn't have the full window. I think we sorted out our defensive issues, but we didn't have that full transfer window that maybe we all wanted. And therefore, I don't think you can lay too much of the blame in terms of an early sacking at Ole's feet. But I do begin to wonder, is it also a management coaching, inspirational issue as well? Is that present? And am I putting too much on Ole for that? But I just think the last couple of performances particularly, it's not that we lacked the quality, it's not that we lacked the possession, it's not that we lacked anything. To me, it was lacking a bit of confidence and a bit of backing in ourselves and just not putting the game away and really resting a wee bit on our laurels. And to me, that does come back down to the manager a wee bit.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things that's been talked about recently, and it's something we've touched upon on the podcast in the last year or so, but it's not been a big thing we've focused on. But, XG as an expected goals is becoming like a very favourite stat. I even saw the official United website talking about our XG. Then that's the time all right, it's gone mainstream now. Yeah, it's not just for statos in anoraks behind their computer screens. But, for those who don't know, XG is about expected goals, and
I was going to ask, just so I knew that I was guessing right.
Yeah, look, it's expected goals, and apparently they've come up with some algorithm that is based upon something like 100,000 different goals over time, and they look at each chance that a team creates and how likely it should be that the team scores that chance. So, I mean, for example, taking XG against Southampton, they're saying that we should have scored 1.9 goals, so more or less 2 goals, whereas Southampton should have got 0.7. So they should, they were lucky even to score, basically.
Yeah.
So they're just looking at how many chances, the quality of chances, and coming up with that scoring. Like we look at Crystal Palace, they're saying we were at 2.2, so we should have got more than 2 goals, whereas Palace are at 0.7. So again, like based on the amount of chances they had and the quality of those chances, they shouldn't have even scored a goal, whereas they've actually got 2.
But then therein lies the problem with expected goals, doesn't it? They've scored 2 goals, but by the stats reckoning, they couldn't have scored a full goal. It doesn't make sense.
I mean, it does. I mean, the thing is, it's to be taken over the course of a season. I think 190 minutes is always going to throw up oddities because the ball will fall in off someone's arse or something like that, which always seems to happen to us over the last 6 years. But it's to be looked at over the course of a season. I think it's a measurement that's really born out of that to tell you who had the best chances within the game, and if that game was played 15 times. United would win it 14 times and Palace would win it once, or there'd be so many draws. But, it's just like anything, there's value in it. It's cool, for someone to look at, I guess. But I don't need to see those. I could have told you, I haven't seen those stats. I haven't opened the thread on Red Cafe, Nick, because I don't really take any interest in it at all. But I could, before you asked the question, or before you told me those numbers, I would have said, we probably were expected somewhere between 2 and 3 goals, and they were expected less than 1 without you even telling me that, because I watched the game, and we had 70% of the ball. We created probably 15 to 20 shots on target or shots on goal with so many on target, and they had probably 3 or 4. And that's just... People have known that for a long time without having to give it a fancy title called XG or whatever.
Yeah, I do just think I have always been a bit of a stato and like looking at these kind of things, and I think it's one of these like new things that were just coming in the last 2-3 seasons, and it's supposed to just encapsulate the whole performance. And it's actually not just even about the chances we've had and obviously missed, which is like a big issue, and I think most people have talked about. Against especially Southampton, there's like 3 balls coming across the 6-yard box and nobody like anywhere near it.
Right.
But yeah, not only that, and on the other side of it, where we're obviously giving away goals that shouldn't be going in. So, for me, that's actually still the bigger issue. We know from last season that our biggest issue was defensively. We conceded more goals than we've ever conceded in a Premier League season. And again, it's quite kind of the few goals we've given away seem to me like quite naive, really.
Yeah.
Against Palace and Southampton, Lindelof's taken a lot of stick and deservedly so. So against Palace, he's lost a big header around the halfway line that's led to their first goal. And against Southampton, I'd say he's a bit less. I blame him because that guy Vesterveld, whatever, is massive.
He was their best player as well.
He's a quite big, but still, look, he's still like Lindelof is not small. He's like 6'2" or something, and in your 6-yard box, you expect like one of your centre backs to be at least putting the other guy off enough to stop the header.
Yeah, but it's behind him. It's Pogba's fault. That
Pogba's fault? How?
Well, Pogba sees the man running in. He should be coming forwards to put him off, not Lindelof stepping back, or he should be giving a shout for Lindelof to step back.
Yeah, it was a bit of an annoying goal, really. But again, like I say, just a bit of it's just naive again, and maybe. We've got such a young team. Maybe it's not unexpected that we give away some like naive kind of goals like that. But on the other side, we are creating a lot more chances than we were, say, under Mourinho, which is something that's at least positive. I'm quite happy at least with the style of play, and a lot of it seems to be coming on. We're just missing that kind of finishing touch. And in the last game, Martial was injured. Rashford's coming at number 9. There's a lot of discussion about who should be 9, who should be wide. I still personally...
Don't say it.
I do think that Rashford is a number 9 and should be played over there.
He's just not, though, is he? He can't lead the line.
This is one game. Look, the first game he's played.
He needs a loan.
All the time he's playing like out left on the wing, even with like defensive responsibilities. And you're like, the problem is like when you play that week in, week out, you're just not in tune with making that run into the 6-yard box where you're just that pure finisher in the box. I mean, even Martial is not like totally natural at doing that, but it's clear that it's something they've been trying to focus on. And Ole had even mentioned it, that look, I was happy that, Martial bundled in a 2-yard chance in one of the matches earlier on.
But the games where they've shared that responsibility, Martial has looked the sharper number 9. Head and shoulders above.
I still remember when Rashford first came through. And for me, he was actually a natural finisher, but then it's been nearly 3 years where he's hardly had a chance to play up front.
I mean, I said, I think 2 weeks ago on the pod, that I was concerned that if they're constantly going to chop and change, we'll never ever see the best of either player. And I still stand over that. Martial's been given the 9, and therefore has had the better games and more chances to kind of show that he leads the line better. And I think, there are elements of Martial's game that are much more suited. Back to goal, he's much better. His touch is much more sound. He's much more confident receiving the ball in tight spaces and playing 1-2s and stuff like that. Definitely a better sort of tiki-taka passer than Rashford, 100%. But there's other things that Rashford gives you, I think, in terms of what's good for a number 9 that Martial doesn't, in terms of his press and his work rate, his runs in behind, and more kind of dynamism, I think, just in general. But even in the England game today, Rashford played the whole 90 minutes. Started out wide left, played out wide right, and when Kane went off, played up front. And he looked much better off the left because he's more comfortable there, but he's still getting shipped around all over the shop. I just don't think that's ever going to be the best thing. I would love it to always be one or other, basically. If Martial's going to be the number 9, he should just be the number 9. If Rashford's going to be left inside forward, then that's just all he should be. I don't think this chopping and changing is great. Or play them both up front and let them work it out, but that's fine. But I do think you'll always, as Nick says, kind of lack that real in-depth knowledge of the position and the in-depth knowledge of your teammates and where Dan James is going to be and where Martial is going to be. Because to me, particularly nowadays, patterns of football are the most important thing in the world. So City score identical goals every single week. Identical patterns play because each has their position, and they are getting to the point where they can kind of transfer and move around. But Liverpool are the exact same. They have the system, and the players play the same positions and go through the same patterns, play in the same routines over and over again, and that's how they get their goals, because it becomes a statistical exercise essentially, because high level football is so patternized.
But do you not think that's what they're doing on the training ground anyway?
Mixing and matching.
I mean, surely that you'd split them up, have Martial on one team, Rashford on the other, and
no, I don't think it would be. I'm not convinced it would be the same as that. Although to be honest, Ed, I would absolutely love to know what we do in the training ground, because it is not apparent to me from watching us play football that we do anything. To be honest, I still, there's this kind of idea that we're pressing now, but beyond that, are we looking for width? Are we looking for passy football? Are we wanting our fullbacks to go overlap? If I was to try and describe to you how we play with the ball, I'm not quite sure I could, muster up anything other than the lads go out and give it their goddamn best. I'm not even sure that's true anymore. I'm definitely seeing Maguire and Lindelof step up higher and us generally peg teams back a bit more, certainly the teams that aren't quite on our level. But beyond that, I don't think Wan-Bissaka knows what he wants to do, because he doesn't know who's ever going to play right wing in front of him, so how can he even begin?
Yeah.
I don't think Luke Shaw knows when he can go and when he can't go, and certainly could give a lot more. I don't think Rashford... I think they're just basically let loose, and I do not think that's the case at City, and I do not think that's the case at Liverpool. And not to go on about those two all the time, but I think unless you have those dedicated coaching kind of setups, you'll win games, but you'll also draw games and you'll also lose games, because you'll never be able to rely on that kind of statistical output that I'm kind of talking about, And I just think, to me, we don't look well coached.
No, but look, you can see now that there's a kind of... That's the problem. He is aiming for this kind of fluid system where players can interchange. And, Ole's even said himself, look, some weeks you'll see Martial at 9, some weeks you'll see Rashford. He has started with Martial, and it's only because he's got injured that Rashford has been moved over there. And yeah, look, make no bones about it, Rashford was poor in that last game for sure.
Oh, definitely.
There's no defending he was bad. No. There was plenty of chances he could have had, and he's got to be getting in and around that 6-yard box for these kind of crosses.
So many went through though. So many.
Dan James has been fantastic. I've been so impressed.
Yeah, look, this is one of the big positives, right? Let's talk. Dan James has been given Player of the Month, deservedly so. 3 goals already, and I've been extremely impressed by him. Everybody knew that he was really fast, but he's got this incredible shot, basically. I was not expecting at all.
Very consistent off both feet.
Yeah, and he's got the confidence to do it as well, which is hugely important.
I think he looks far better off the left, just far more comfortable. And again, this comes down to knowing positions. And I think this is so. And I get this fluid system, but it's an ideal world thing, and we are not an ideal world club at the moment. Manchester United is not somewhere where you can come in and just go, we'll just try this new thing that no one else does and sounds really good, but is actually really difficult. I just don't think that's a really great idea at the moment, because we don't have that kind of those 4 or 5 years. We don't have an established team. We don't have a good spine. We don't have leaders. We don't have a team that's been together for a long time. What we have is a lot of raw but exciting, talented youth. So I don't think you can just say to them, here, the way you've been coached all your life, forget that. Here, just play what you want, go where you want, just feel it out. Just enjoy yourself out there. It'll be really cool. Sometimes it is really cool.
But yeah, look, at the same time, we have created a lot of chances. It's not like it's...
Well, but have they been very good chances though, Nick, do you think?
I think we've created enough chances to win all of these matches.
Yeah, but what kind of chances are there? So when was the last time we saw a player get played clean through and score? Do you know what I mean? Or a tapping across 6-yard box, apart from Martial's that he nearly missed.
Yeah, but that's the thing. When you play, Wolves, Palace, Southampton... That's the big difference. The first game was against Chelsea. They come to us, they actually try and play. So it means we can go on the counter-attack, which is actually, I think, Ole's preferred way of playing. But then when we have these teams who sit in, then, it's been actually a problem going all the way back to Van Gaal when we have these teams who sit in, defend, how do we break them down? But yeah, I'd actually say compared to Van Gaal days and Mourinho days, we're creating more chances against those part-the-bus teams than we were with either of those two managers. And it's only been the finishing that's letting us down at the moment.
But then you're saying that Rashford is the lead line striker.
Yeah, but he's only had one match there. So you can't just read off one match. He was scoring last season when he was played up front under Ole.
Sounds like Ed's a bit hung up on Rashford.
I'm sick of it.
Ed still wants Rashford to go out on loan.
Yes, everything wrong with Manchester United at the moment.
No, I don't want him to go out on loan. That's tongue in cheek. It's just he believes his own hype. He really does believe his own hype. All the free kicks, all the shouting at other players. He's not a senior player yet.
I mean, in this squad, if you go by appearances, he is.
Well, yeah, I suppose.
Comfortably, he's probably top 3.
Yeah, all right, I'll take that. But I mean, he still needs to pull his socks up.
I think there's this kind of almost Daily Mail rhetoric surrounding Marcus Rashford about these free kicks and his attitude and his fashions.
Well, I don't read the Daily Mail.
And I don't know if it's just the association with Jesse Lingard and all that, do you know what I mean? But I just think he gets...
I don't care about that.
I think criticise the performance because he is so hot and cold,
Well, This is what I mean, though. He has to either do it consistently to make those things forgivable.
He has still scored 2 goals this season, It's not like he hasn't scored a goal.
2 goals in one game, and he missed a penalty.
A Burnley.
Yeah, and that is another reason why our XG is so out of sync, because we missed 2 penalties as well.
What impact would that... Obviously, that would be a very high XG thing because you should score.
Yeah, basically, you're expected to score a penalty, so when you miss 2, it completely skews your XG.
As in, it brings it down?
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of the things that, a penalty is obviously one of the most expected goals you're going to get, and we've missed 2 of them. So, that's why our XG is way higher. I mean, at the moment, if you look at the XG table, we should be second in the league after Manchester City, according to that. Ahead of Liverpool.
Great.
If we'd have scored those penalties, would we have won those games? Definitely, 100%.
Yeah, and exactly. And yeah, that's the other question that, if Pogba didn't take that one penalty, would Rashford have missed the next one?
And I think there's a point there to be had in terms of we look at these individual bits and say that, that's why we didn't win that game. Well, it's not, because it was 40 minutes after that incident to still win that game. I think that's one of my biggest gripes so far. And I said it after the Wolves game, the last podcast that I was on. So Wolves equalised, I can't remember. Wolves equalised whatever in the 70th minute, the 60th minute, whatever it was, I can't remember. But there was 20 or 30 minutes of the game left.
That we could have scored, yeah.
You would normally expect this big response, us to peg a team back, for players to really pull up their socks and go, wow, that's not on. Neves scores that goal and we go, right, we're not having that. We need a result here. We're winning this match. We've been comfortable. We've outplayed them. This is our game. Let's go and absolutely put them under the cosh, create chances, make them panic, and we'll get the goal. And it just didn't happen. The game just seeped away.
I do agree in that one. We still had enough chances, but that was less. Whereas, we created a lot more against Southampton.
It harks back to my previous point. Well, I'm not sure we did, Nick, because my abiding memory of watching those games, I know we created chances. I dispute the quality of those chances. and whether we would ever have actually scored any of those crosses Dan James
Well,
put in.
that is what XG is all about. XG is saying there was enough quality chances.
No,
that is the XG stat, is saying that the chances were high enough quality to be.
But if you're just going to sit here and say to me, "Oh, XG says it, so it must be true," why do we bother even watching the game? Sure, we'll just wait and see what XG tells us about the game. Do you know what I mean? It's not a fair test, But the point I'm making is, there's no control in that squad of a game. We don't have controls of these games. Like, 30, 40 minutes goes past when you're watching United and you're just like, have I been in a coma? Or has nothing happened in this game? It just seems like time just ebbs away. I mean, 90 minutes used to feel like a long amount of time because we would do so much in a game. We would pen them in, we would keep the ball for large swathes, we would attack, or whatever it is. And now I feel like the games just go by in like an instant, in a heartbeat, and we've done nothing. Players are just kind of ambling around and going, well, there's still like 20 minutes left, so it'll be fine. And then 10 minutes later, there's still like 10 minutes later. There's no need to panic here whatsoever. There's 2 minutes left. Maybe we should make a substitution. I will do that, okay. I know there's 4 minutes of injury time. Someone here lump it into the box. It just seems like there's no control. And again, I think that comes down to our coaching and our patterns of play, that we don't know what way we want to play, and therefore we don't control games, and therefore teams just are very kind of comfortable against us, even when we have the lion's share of the ball.
I don't really agree with that. Like, if you look at this last match against Southampton, the reason obviously we're all really annoyed is because they've gone down to 10 men, and then there's no excuses for not scoring. But yeah, as we talked about, we said, look, there's 3 balls that have come across the 6-yard box. Greenwood had a good chance. Pogba had put Rashford in for another chance. There was loads of good chances there. So I don't understand how you're saying like we've not created any like clear chances.
The Greenwood chance, are you talking about the one he hit from the edge of the box?
Greenwood, yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a good chance. He beats one man on the edge of the box. He's going to score that, one time out of 40. It's not a good chance at all.
It's a good save. It was a damn good save from the goalie.
It was a comfortable save, but it's not a good chance. The one where Pogba slipped Rashford in, he's nearly at the corner of the box. Again, take a very good strike to be the keeper from there. It's not a great chance for the amount of possession we had. The Dan James crosses, that's just Dan James being class and no one else looking in any way interested in attacking the box.
Yeah, but they're like 5 decent chances. I'm not saying all of those should go in, but I'm saying one of those 5.
But surely it's only a decent chance if the striker's going towards the ball anyway.
Exactly. Dan James could have put in 20 of those balls. We never would have scored. Do you know what I mean?
No, but yeah, look, it's...
If Rashford's never making the run, then it's not, Dan James can, he can trick it along the goal line, but if no one's there to touch it in, then...
It's no difference to a clearance, really, is it?
No, look, it's a good... I actually don't know how, to be honest myself, whether XG counts that kind of, the cross comes across, should somebody be there, or whether I don't think it actually does. I think it actually only
just
counts
looks at the area
when
the
there's a
cross
shot.
goes into, or whatever.
Exactly. I think it's only when there's an actual shot that it then assesses should that have been a goal. So, the Rashford one would count from Pogba's ball, the Greenwood one would count. I don't actually think it does take into account those kind of crosses that come across the 6-yard box that nobody's anywhere near, to be fair.
Can I point out, though, would our XG be what is predicted this season then from last season? So, how Ollie came in and we were like 4-1 United. And now our XG then was what 2?
Yeah, we were vastly overperforming in terms of our clinicalness in front of goal.
Yeah, we were definitely overperforming for that, and then it kind of then evened itself out with that awful.
Then reality hit home.
So have we hit sort of our average XG now? Is that why we're so shit?
I, to be honest, have only really looked at it in detail for this season. I do know last season that we were way overperforming when Zoli first came in, and then we're way underperforming, and I think it kind of evened itself out. I've only really looked at it in detail over the last 4 matches just to look at it this year and where it's at, and I don't know where we're at over Ole's whole time so far, to be honest. It's something we can look at. But yeah, I think, looking at... And again, all right, we're only 4 games in, so maybe it's not enough stats yet to be looking at it. But I just think it is an interesting kind of comment. And I'm not saying that it's the be-all and end-all or whatever either. I just think it is quite an interesting thing to look at. And I personally do think that things are better than what a lot of the kind of media and our fans and all would be saying at the moment. I mean, yeah, that's what Ole himself is saying. Look, we're going in the right direction. We're making the chances. We're dominating possession. And yeah, I to be honest, I kind of agree with that. But I do worry that do we have like the answers to it? Because, I was kind of happy with the squad, but then Lukaku and Sanchez have gone and we haven't brought anybody else in. We had this kind of chat on our WhatsApp, whatever, and I said, look, I would even take a punt on Llorente or if Zlatan wants to come back, because I really do think that we are a bit light now. up front with if some, Martial gets injured, then all of a sudden Rashford is up front. Next one is Greenwood, and after that you're like, well, what's the next option?
It was immediately apparent against Southampton.
Yeah,
I think there's a good argument to be made that if Martial plays that game, we win.
Yeah,
just
definitely.
Because it just gives us that extra 10-20%. And I think that was a point we made, that not only did we just need more depth, we needed top quality, but beyond that, we just needed depth. I'm a bit disappointed with Mason's minutes and the lack of Gomez, but Ole must be seeing something that we just don't get to see.
Yeah, well, we did actually have that question, to be fair. Bastian on Red Cafe, who's a regular listener, said, why no Gomez? How come he's not appeared on the bench?
I mean, I'm mystified, literally mystified.
I mean, it was that last game where Chong was on it against Southampton. We had a couple of injuries. Chong was on the bench, Gomez was. That was the first time I was kind of surprised. The only reason I can kind of look at is that I guess Gomez's position, I mean, Lingard is already on the bench, and I'm assuming Ole is saying, all right, Lingard is ahead of you, and it's the same kind of position. There might be something to do with his contract in the background again. He's going to be out of contract next summer, is not re-signed. I don't know if there's anything going on with that. It kind of smacks of Pogba years ago, where he's coming into his last year, and I think
But I don't think we're going to be playing hardball with him. I don't think that's it. And if it's not that, then we should just be playing him and trying to encourage him to sign the contract. And thirdly, Chong looked pretty average on tour to me, far from ready.
Yeah.
Gomez looked better off the left wing than Chong looked, never mind at 10, his natural position. So on the wing he was very successful, scored that brilliant goal down the touchline in pre-season, can't remember who it was against, but he just looked by far and away the most ready player, alongside Mason. And I
totally agree with you.
I just don't understand it. And he's clearly so technically gifted. And if it's this fear that he isn't, combative enough, or he isn't physical enough, or that the game will
he is tiny. He is tiny.
Yeah, of course he is. But so are loads of football players. Doesn't matter if they're amazing footballers. Do you know what I mean? And every time he's actually played senior minutes, he always comes in and immediately takes the ball. He has that sort of Scholesy, I want to buzz around and demand the ball and take it, and he's so good in terms of his feet and his movement, and it'd be a lot of short passes and stuff like that.
Yeah, and if we really look at what our biggest issue is at the moment, it is that number 10 position.
Exactly.
That I would say is our number one biggest issue right now. Yeah. And I think I remember going back to the first podcast we did this season when we said, look, a lot of the team looks pretty obvious what it's going to be, but there's kind of two spots, which is like right wing, right midfield, and number 10, which is totally up for grabs. And so far this season, we've already seen Lingard, Andreas, and Mata all played in that position. I actually personally right now would play Juan Mata there and start with him.
Yeah, so would I probably, yeah. I mean, I'd play Gomez, but if it wasn't going to be Gomez, if we take Gomez out of the conversation, because I just don't think he's getting that chance.
No, I think Gomez is not going to be starting yet, but he should at least be getting on the bench. That he's not even an option on the bench is a bit crazy to me. But we are going to now come into this period where we're playing 2 games a week.
Which is when I think Ollie said he was going to bring Gomez in. He said it.
Well, exactly. Now it's going to be a big difference now, because so far I've seen that Ollie's tried to play a settled team to try and get the season going with only a couple of changes here and there. And yeah, it makes sense. But obviously, results haven't gone our way. But now, look, there's going to be 2 matches a week. Europa League starting. The League Cup is kicking off. So there's going to be a lot of other players. I mean, the other player as well that's just nowhere to be seen yet is Fred. I mean, where the fuck is Fred?
On honeymoon, isn't he?
I mean, I'm not saying he was like the superstar, but he had some decent games last season. And when we had those few injuries, he was played in these games against Paris Saint-Germain, where we had big wins. And he's again not even been on the bench is slightly bizarre.
Yeah, and particularly given that I don't think Pogba at 6 is getting the resounding yes vote from me so far. I said again at the start of the season I would actually push him forward.
That's the other option at number 10 is play 2 midfielders and push Pogba forward.
That's what I said at the start of the year, just because we didn't get anyone in who I think is quality enough. Now I don't think Pogba's an amazing 10 and an out-and-out 10, certainly by any means, but he's definitely the best out of what we have by a country margin, and I just think he's still slightly wasted at 6, and actually sometimes also a bit of a liability that we just don't need to ask that from him. I'd put McTominay, Fred, or Matic there, because I think we could be stable enough and let Pogba, express himself further up the pitch, and I think we'd be better for it. To be very honest, particularly if Martial and Rashford are playing, because I think the 3 work very well together, and it would also be Dan James off the right for me. But I don't understand why Fred. I mean, there must be something going on there in training or something like that, because I can't imagine only these things are lost to him. That he just hasn't realised that he's got that player or whatever else. And the same with Gomez. You have to put a little bit of trust in the manager that he sees things we don't, or has reasoning that maybe just isn't immediately apparent to us. But certainly it'll be interesting to see what happens after the international break, because that is a good old wait and a good chance for people to get fit whilst other players are getting minutes in internationals, as you say, as we come into a busy period. But the other thing to remember is that after Chelsea, which we won resoundingly, that was an easy run of fixtures for us. That was that could have been 12 from 12.
Definitely.
In the context of all those games. We should have won the Wolves game. We absolutely should have won the Palace game and the Southampton game. Well, the Palace was probably the most dodgy, but I mean that goal they scored at the end is just a joke of a thing,
Yeah.
But all those games were eminently winnable, and that's kind of the issue. If we scraped the three of those, that were 2 draws and a loss, we'd all be sitting here absolutely buzzing. We'd be top of the league, or joint top of the league, probably behind on goal difference. Like, say we just managed to scrape those wins, but the style of play, the kind of minutiae of the game was exactly the same, we'd all be sitting here like the cat that got the crane, grinding out wins.
Yeah.
We've had 70% possession, we've created loads of chances, our XG's through the roof here, unbelievable. And we're getting penalties every game. It's class, so it's such a minor difference, but we didn't. And then when we didn't win the first one against Wolves, the pressure ratchets up. When we didn't win the set, when we got beat by Palace, the pressure ratchets up. When we then draw again to Southampton, and now we have Leicester and whoever else, we're coming into harder fixtures. Leicester are no joke. Brendan Rodgers is the most annoying man in the world, but a very decent manager, and looks to have Leicester, not so bad. I think are they second or third? Something one of the undefeated teams.
Third, I think. Yeah, the third.
One of the only 3 unbeaten teams so far. But yeah, look, we'll do the Leicester a bit later on. One thing I did actually want to go back to from these games, right, is that I do think we were pretty hard done by on quite a few decisions. And the VAR has obviously come in this season. I've never been a fan of VAR in general, but I thought that at least that these things should come and sort ourselves out. Against Palace there was like a blatant Martial pen. There was probably a time when there should have been a red card as well, where he's hold down just outside of the box with me going clean through. Against Southampton as well, there's one, it wasn't as clear, but Greenwood is fouled in the box for me, and I thought that these are chances that are going to be picked up by VAR this season, and it's obviously not happening at all.
I also thought in all 3 of those games there was like expert levels of shithousery from all those teams in terms of wasting time and going for wee lie downs. Even though you're supposed to get off the pitch now, that's a new rule. It just doesn't need to be, no one cares about it anymore. And just like running down the clock, breaking up the play, so many professional fouls not getting booked, and any time we got momentum it was just let off. And then in the end we get like 3 minutes at a time. I'm like, literally there was like 15 minutes worth of pauses in that game just by them being wabs, and we're getting like 4 minutes at a time. It was so frustrating. Now, a lot of that frustration comes because United aren't doing what we want them to, of course, but it was just so frustrating.
No, yeah, totally agree.
Can I make a quick point about Fred going back to that? He was slow to get into all these teams to begin with, wasn't he?
He only really came in because of injuries.
Yeah, there was a lot of chat that I never fancied him, wasn't comfortable with him as a 6, always had a mistake in him, and it didn't seem to ever really want to rely on him. Even when he had a sort of good patch in the Champions League against PSG and stuff like that, I think he was... I don't ever think he's won him over.
No.
I think anyway, Gomez, Fred, they're going to get games now, whether it's
definitely.
Europa League, whatever, and then it's up to them. If they perform, then surely they'll get then a chance to come into the first team. So, there's going to be a lot of players now who will be given chances, and then, it's up to them, really. Ole picked his team, what he thought was his first 11. It's not quite delivered. So, there's a big chance for some other players now to have a go.
I think, it'll be a very up and down season. I mean, you look at Chelsea now, Mason Mount and Tammy Abraham both looking like superstars, and they're very much on the up and seem to have, ridden their early kind of storm, but then they'll go back to looking crap again. Arsenal look decent, but it'll be up and down for all 3 of these teams, but you just don't want us to put ourselves out of it before it ever gets.
Yeah, and we're currently ahead of Spurs in the league as well.
Yeah, and Spurs are their form, even over the last the end of last season, is the only team that's worse than ours. Because when you look at our last 15 games, I mean, it's woeful. It's relegation form.
Yeah, we need to turn that around pretty ASAP. Before we get into the next match previews, I did want to just give a quick mention to the Women's Super League. It was the first, well, in professional football anyway, Manchester derby, Manchester City versus Man United today. I did manage to catch the last half hour, second half of it. Really, we lost unfortunately to City, but it wasn't that unexpected because we're just a promoted team this year, so we're like the equivalent of Aston Villa or something, I suppose. Whereas City are a solid kind of Champions League team in women's football. But it was a record attendance for the WSL, 30,000 people at the Etihad. Although, yeah, I think that will be broken tomorrow at Stamford Bridge when I think it's a 40,000 sellout. So for the first time ever, yeah, the women are actually playing in the men's stadiums. Normally the women's matches take place at much smaller places. I'd gone to a match last year with my daughter in Leeds Sports Village. I think it was only about 5,000 capacity or something. But yeah, it was pretty full and yeah, nice day out. But yeah, a lot of kind of coverage nowadays for the women's football. I don't know if you guys have watched any of it yourselves.
No,
not since the summer, not at all. I would be interested to see some highlights.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I did actually quite enjoy the Women's World Cup in the summer. I mean,
I should put it on Match of the Day.
Yeah, it should.
Like, yeah, even if it's at the end, I know it's a bit kind of offensive, but just shows the highlights.
But anyway, look, there's a lot more coverage going on there, and yeah, I don't think there's big things expected from our women's team this year. As I said, they've just been promoted, quite a young team still.
Don't they have a few internationals though? England internationals.
No, yeah, they do. They lost actually their captain, biggest player, Liz Greenwood, went off to Lyon, who are the current
How
women's.
tall is she?
Why?
She's the biggest player. Sorry.
Yeah, no, she went off to Lyon, who are the Women's Champions League. I think they've won like the most Women's Champions Leagues. They're like the best ones for years and years. So yeah, she's gone up there. So, but yeah, we've still got a few internationals there. And yeah, we were unlucky to lose this game against City. It was like an amazing shot from City's player Weir, and we hit the post. So even though there wasn't, most people were expecting we'd get quite hammered in this game, I think. So yeah, fair play to our ladies, and yeah, good luck to them for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was also, I did catch a bit of the England match today. As you mentioned, Colm, Rashford started, played left, and did play like number 9 for the end of the game. He was quite unlucky not to score at the end.
He was, and he was instrumental in at least a couple of the goals. He had a very quiet first half. I thought England were just quite flat. They couldn't really deal with Bulgaria's kind of 2 planks of 5. But second half he really picked up, got at them, really stretched them a few times, and just went past them with ease. And definitely was integral in a few goals, but like Kane scored a hat-trick, Sterling scored 2, Sterling scored 1. But he looked good, but not nothing mad. I don't think was there any other United players. No, Wan-Bissaka went home injured.
Well, Maguire started obviously, and
he did.
Solid as usual. Wan-Bissaka was injured. Lingard is also sent back ill.
Illness apparently.
So there's a few worries at the moment because both Pogba and Martial have not gone with France due to injury. So we're not really sure. I'm hoping that they've just been pulled out and that they'll be fine.
I think that's the case
for next weekend. But yeah.
Although we're likely to see more of Ashley Young at left back, and he was, oh my god, horrendous.
Yeah, I agree. And with Dalot out, there isn't really any other options at the moment. All of a sudden there's quite a few question marks on injuries. So yeah, at the moment we're not really sure
why
who's
can't
going to be.
Dalot play there?
He was injured. He was injured as well.
He was injured.
Is he? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes.
I think he's okay again.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, he was.
I think Dalot. Well, I don't know actually. I was going to say, is he ahead of Young in the pecking order? Actually, probably.
I'm not sure. Left back, I don't think so. No,
not left back.
No.
But yeah, look, if we look ahead then at the matches coming up Saturday, we've got Leicester, as you say. They've been on good form so far this season, undefeated. The only ones with City and Liverpool have not been beaten yet. Obviously, there's the story of Maguire coming back to play against them. They didn't actually buy any other centre-back this summer. I think they tried to get a couple and it didn't happen.
Weren't they in for Dunk? Was that?
I think they were in for Dunk, and then also somebody from is it Ake from Bournemouth? But
yes.
I think they were quoted something absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So they've gone into the season with Johnny Evans and I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's some Turkish international who they bought last year. That's now their first choice centre back.
He's actually been decent so far.
Yeah. Look, their team have looked good. Vardy's scored again. They had a couple of good signings in Tielemans that were made permanent. Was their big signing? I think about 40 million. They got in Iosi Perez from Newcastle. So they've got quite a few creative players. Tielemans, Perez, Harvey Barnes, all Brighton, Gray,
Madison,
all trying to set up Vardy. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy game at all.
It is at home though.
It is at home.
You go, Nick?
I'm actually not going to be going to this game. Unfortunately, I will be probably making actually my debut at the Astana Europa League game, which is the next one after, randomly.
Where do they locally play their football?
Kazakhstan.
Is that right?
At least we get out of the way early, though, isn't it?
Well, the worrying trip is when we have to go away to Kazakhstan. I think somewhere in like the middle of winter, where it's going to be like minus 20 or something.
I thought it'd be end of September.
No, I think it's later on. I'm not fully, but yeah, if anybody's not up to speed, we've got Astana, who are the Kazakhstani champions, Partizan Belgrade from Serbia, and then AZ Alkmaar, Dutch team, who are a bit more well known. So that's our Europa League.
It is the most Europa League group that ever Europa Leagued.
Yeah, exactly.
Manchester United belong absolutely nowhere near that group.
Yeah, we are actually the current bookies' favourites for winning the Europa League. But I think the most interesting thing is going to see is how strong a team does Ole put out in it.
I mean, realistically, it's our most legitimate access to the Champions League. I think we have more chance of winning the Europa League than we do finishing fourth.
Really?
No.
I think so. Even in a cup competition, I think they're neck and neck, basically, so I don't think you could discount one for the other, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, okay. I'd say, they're neck and neck.
They're equal.
Yeah, it is of quite big importance for us nowadays, that Europa League.
But don't ever say it.
He said shamefully.
Well, it's the fact. As soon as they gave that Champions League place, it completely changed that competition. Because before it was just like,
I know.
I remember when we first ended up in it, and like we were just sending out the kids and whatever. And that was, I think, when we dropped down from the Champions League. I think that was the first time we ever played in it.
Yeah, we went out the group stages. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you can think it, but you can't say it. Just don't say it.
Look, it's the reality nowadays. But yeah, look, dude. I'm hoping, we can Leicester come out and play a bit, because I think that is actually suits our game better, like against Chelsea, whereas we do still have this bit of difficulty with breaking down the bus kind of teams.
I don't think Brendan Rodgers knows how to play any differently, so they probably will.
Exactly. Yeah, I think they will as well. And they've got pretty good ball players, so they're not, I really like that Maddison. He didn't get any minutes for England today, and he may do next week, but I think he's a player we should definitely be looking at going forward. He's already being linked with us and could be that exact kind of number 10 player for us. I think he'd be perfect.
I think he's super. I would love to see him here in January or the summer. I'd be delighted. If we even just said he's the 10 we want, went out and got him like first choice, I would totally get that. I think he's super. Created the most chances in Europe last year, apparently.
Oh, wow.
And fair play to Leicester. I did actually see, we had that stat of youngest Premier League team, but actually
Leicester were close. Yeah.
Well, I saw the table off how many minutes have been given to players under 23 this season, and Leicester are actually top with us just behind them. Yeah, that Tielemans, Maddison, Chilwell. They've got a lot of exciting young players in their team as well. So they've done pretty well since winning that random Premier League a couple of years ago. But I think, like I say, I do think that these kind of teams who actually will come and play, it is better for our style. Yeah,
but I mean, how many of those teams are actually going to come and play against us?
I mean, even if you look at the teams below, like the top 6 or whatever, the Wolves didn't really at all.
That's true, actually. That was even away.
And they are kind of one of those teams that would fit into that bracket. Everton probably would have a go, I think. Leicester probably will, but after that, I think you're struggling. Except Norwich, they seem to want to take everyone on, which is admirable and foolish. But Leicester definitely have the quality to, really match up against us in midfield and stuff, so it should be more even a game, I suppose. But I could see a very similar game to
Wolves.
What we've seen the last 3 games and us being still quite dominant. Because I think we will, with our centre backs now, we will keep the ball quite well, but I just think that almost leaves us more exposed, when we are in this kind of growing process of still figuring out how we want to play and what everyone needs to be doing.
Well, it's like that goal. Who scored? Was it Wolves' goal? Where Pogba lost the ball. It was Palace, wasn't it? Actually,
Palace, their second goal.
Yeah,
Pogba lost on the halfway line.
That's exact example of that.
Yeah, and the first goal, in terms of one header and Ayu's through on goal, it should never happen. Should never happen.
Well, that's what I said earlier. They're quite naive kind of goals to give away, and as I say, it does go back to the fact that we've got a young team, not that much experience, and these are the kind of things that then you kind of expect. Do you think there's any pressure on Lindelof's position with these couple of mistakes, or is he still?
I don't think so.
Who's going to come in?
Tuanzebe.
Jones or Rojo. Yeah, we should mention actually as well the other 2 players that we've said goodbye to are Darmian and Smalling since we've last recorded. I can't believe Darmian stayed around as long as he had, but yeah, he's got his move now to Parma, and yeah, Smalling's all three. In fact, all four of those players, Lukaku, Sanchez, Darmian, Smalling, have all ended up in Serie A. I say good luck to Smalling.
Oh, definitely.
Smalling has won leagues for us, been involved for many, many years.
Well, he's won leagues with us.
Player of the season that year. Can't remember when it was, but was he player of the year or something like that? Was he?
Smalling.
He had Smalling had a great year. About what, 3?
Yeah, that 6 months of good form. Yeah.
No, look, he's been a solid player for us, and I think out of those players, Smalling, Rojo, Jones, there's probably any one of them could have left. They're all, for me, at a similar kind of level. And
I mean, really, Smalling was probably the one you didn't want to leave, and I'm sure was the one Ole probably didn't want to leave. But it gets to the point where you can't. I think it seemed like a very mature and mutual decision, and that the club didn't want to hold him back, and he has limited games left in his career probably, and that is, I think, a good opportunity for him. And also brave. Very easy just to sit and stay at Manchester United, as lots of our players prove. Picking up your $100 a week, for doing very little. But I think that's quite a brave step. It shows where his mindset is in terms of backing himself and wanting to play, because not the easiest thing to go to that league.
Yeah, actually, I wrote we're in the Champions League. Is he going to be playing in the Champions League? I'm not sure who's in the Champions League from Italy this year. Actually,
I think they're in Europa, aren't they? He could play against us. Maybe he can't.
No, he can't play against us.
But yeah, fair play to him. I say fair play to him. It's a lot easier to like a player when they're no longer playing for Manchester United.
I did expect that Rojo would have been the one to leave, and still was a bit bizarre because apparently Everton wanted him and we didn't let him go, so I'm not sure.
Their bid wasn't big enough.
Yeah, that's kind of sometimes the problem. But anyway, look, Ole is clearing out the deadwood. This is something that people have been moaning about for years, that, as much as the players coming in, it's about the players going out.
I mean, you do have to say, I think if we sort ourselves out going forward, I think if Ole does that over this season and with another transfer window, you could easily envisage a situation where he is deemed to be a resounding success, because he 100% has cleared the squad out. He has set his parameters for what he wants clearly, and he'll live by that sort or die by that sort, but that's absolutely fine by me, and I hope he is given all the rope in the world in that context. But for me, there's a very, very good spine there, good defence. Not just perfect yet, I'm not 100% sure on either Lindelof and Shaw, if that's going to be our end game defence, but it's definitely 9/10 of the way there. Midfield definitely needs a lot of work, and the attack just needs, I think, one player to really get there and to kind of gel. And if he gets those kind of two players in that we need in the next two transfer windows, to me there's a really good progression there and a good logic that I can follow, no problem whatsoever. I actually think when I look back in that window, you can't do it all in one window, and I'm very satisfied with the outs and the defensive ins. But they need to build on that, obviously. He needs to put the system in place the way we want to play, get the players he wants, and then I think we could be looking at a Manchester United that can once again challenge. But that's still a big ask. But in that regard, I'm very happy with the movement of the club in that regard. I'm just still slightly concerned that we aren't a well-coached team. I'm not sure the system is there yet, but it's so early in the season for that.
I mean, you keep saying this. I'm not necessarily sure that the system isn't there. I don't think it's being implemented as well as they'd like it to be just yet.
Yeah, and it's not going to happen straight away. Like, okay, he did have a few months last season, but it's the first pre-season he's had, and it's going to take a bit of time, especially, like you say, when you've got a lot of these young players. There has been 3 new players coming to the team as well. And yeah, all of them have done really well, which is one good thing, because there's been so many transfer windows that we've had in the last few years where players have come in. There's been a lot of excitement about big names and whatever, and then they've been absolutely useless.
Our 3 nominations for Player of the Month were Dan James, Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire.
Exactly, yeah.
And if that's not a damning indictment on every other player at Manchester United Football Club, then I don't know what is. I mean, I think Martial should have been in there, but
yeah.
No, but yeah, that's true. Look, how many times since Fergie's left have we had a transfer window and every player has just slotted in? And it really is like a kind of endorsement of this kind of young British thing. I see this kind of argument and wherever people talk about, oh, look, we should bring in players who are Premier League proven because they can slot in. And people say, oh, no, but you never know. It's not a guarantee just because they've played in the Premier League, other players come in. But I do think that it makes a difference that, players can come straight in and be happy, be comfortable, know the other players who are all around them as well.
It probably does increase the likelihood, definitely. I mean, more in the sense that I think there's more difficulties for a foreign player in terms of language, culture, weather, all that kind of stuff. How many other native speakers are in the squad? What the squad is like, and all that kind of stuff. So there's more barriers, I think, just for a foreign player in terms, and also differences in the league. The competitiveness, the physicality, whatever else, the amount of games. So I just think an English player or someone who's played in the British leagues will also just be, more likely to fit in that regard. But I really think it comes down to like a personality thing. I think you go back to that Fergie thing of assessing the player's mentality and whether he could hack it at United and stuff like that. And I think for a long time we weren't doing that. We were just, as we all know, this, Galactico, scattergun, whatever, good name footballer that was being discarded by their parent club. We just seemed to snap up for big money, which is great. But this is the first year it's felt different in that sense, and that we're picking players based on a clear strategy that we have, but also I think there's a mentality element there that's being brought in that I really like. I think Harry Maguire just looks, and I said this before we were even hotly linked to him this year. I was saying last year, when I see him play for England, I see a leader. I see the way he plays with the ball at his feet. I see someone who's just happy to be there and comfortable and has this kind of confidence to play his own game, and was always, very, very happy that when we were being linked to him, he just looks like a United player to me without a shadow of a doubt. Dan James, I think you see that exuberance in the youth and the positivity that he has. Wan-Bissaka is just a freak tackler, basically, an absolute legend. But I just think those are really positive signs. But it's as much about their character and their mentality and their age and all that kind of stuff as it is about where they've come from, what league they've played in, or what their stats are, whatever else.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen that video actually. That if people haven't seen it, it's worth watching. That it's from the Leeds United kind of documentary, and it was from not this summer but summer before, where Dan James had agreed a transfer from Swansea to Leeds, and he's actually at the Leeds ground on transfer deadline day, sat there, ready to sign his contract. There's some kind of disagreement between Swansea, Leeds at the last minute, and he's still sat there. And it basically just shows the video, and that deadline just passes, and he's still sat there going, what the fuck? And then goes back to Swansea, and thankfully a year later ends up with us. Otherwise, I'm sure it would have been a whole different history for him from there. So, thank God for that. That's another one that we can thank Leeds for. The last one, of course, was Cantona. Cheers for him as well, But go and check out that documentary. But look, let's finish off with maybe a couple of predictions. It's difficult to say, but go on, what's your prediction for Leicester, Colm?
3-1.
Feeling confident, Ed?
My heart says 2-0, but my mind says 1-1.
If we draw 1-1, I'm gonna give up.
Yeah.
I think we can just nick a 1-0 win in this one. I think it's not going to be easy at all. But as I say, I hope that they play a bit more. I'm actually more worried about our defence at the moment. We talk about how good Wan-Bissaka and Maguire have been. But the goals we give away is what's worrying me right now. And I think they're more the reason that we've not been getting these points rather than the goals we're not scoring, really.
Do you know, my one issue with Wan-Bissaka is he often gets drawn inside. And, the second Palace goal doesn't happen if Wan-Bissaka stays out wide and follows his man.
Yeah, and there was actually a couple of other times in that game where he was out of position as well. And I don't know whether it's something Palace know about him and maybe try to exploit. I won't be that surprised. But look, young players, you are going to get that kind of thing, I guess.
For the Southampton goal, I thought he was very slow out to the ball and then sort of jumps under it. I know he's kind of probably worried of giving away a penalty, but I thought it was quite poor. But I think a lot of these things come down to I think you defend as a team, and I think particularly in the Southampton game, we came out in that second half totally disinterested and put ourselves under the cosh for 5 or 10 minutes, and they had a series of corners before they scored from the sort of rebound corner that they eventually did score from. But that was our team shape and our team mentality that caused us to be in that position. And then the goal is, it's something like a fluke or a freak goal. It's just one of those things that just happens because we're Manchester United and we just can't seem to do anything right. But it's us putting ourselves in that position to then have that mistake or that fluke thing happen, that I think is so often the case, or so often has been the case recently.
It was the same at Wolves, but we dominated them first half. Second half, they came out, got at us a bit, and we seemed to step down a bit and let them play a bit more.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's that classic kind of ebb and flow of a football game. And a football game, it's always this unique thing, but so often it follows the same pattern. When people say when you don't get that second killer goal, the whole team just gets that nerviness about them, and the ball almost seems to suck itself into our net. And I felt this so many times at periods since Fergie left that the manner of goals that get scored against us sometimes are just bordering on ridiculous, and you're like, that just doesn't happen to other teams, or that deflection wouldn't have happened, or that ball wouldn't have landed there. And it always just seems like this perfect storm to culminate in us conceding from the only chance that they've had in that half or whatever else. And I think large parts have come down to us, not killing games off, which I think is the big problem. I think in all these games we've had the lion's share of the ball. Twice we've gone up, constantly been in the lead and just not taking our chances, totally taking the foot off the gas and thought 1-0 is plenty. And in the 60th, 70th minute, you just always know that the sucker punch is so obvious. It just seems like it's unavoidable for us, from the most ridiculous punt up the pitch, which a header is one and then Ayu's through on goal, or whether it's a perfect free kick or corner that Neves then strokes into the top bag that wouldn't happen 1 in 100 chances, or that Van Aanholt goal at Crystal Palace in the 95th minute or whatever, which is like just a comedy of errors. It seems like these almost tragic, hilarious things that just don't happen normally, and yet they seem so predictable at the moment. And it's because we're not pushing on and getting that second, third goal, because when you do that, the team you're playing doesn't have that hope, doesn't have that ability to sort of find it in the 60th, 70th minute and think they're going to get a wee bit nervous now and then push on for that equaliser or whatever else, and then suddenly the game takes on a whole different thing, because the game's been killed, and that's what good teams do that at the moment we just aren't.
I do think that there's a big thing as well about we're saying, look, our defence is looking pretty good, Maguire, whatever, but we are conceding these goals. And I think maybe there's a big question mark over our midfield then. And that's the thing, where we always have this dilemma over Pogba, that when he plays in the two and he's a more creative player, that maybe sometimes he's not obviously doing the right defensive duties. Maybe he's giving the ball away now and again.
But he did it for France.
Yeah, it's true. But then he's got N'Golo Kante next to him, who's does the running around like 2 players worth basically, so maybe he can get away with it like that. And McTominay, I think, is doing a very good job, but he's obviously not like a world class defensive midfielder yet. So yeah, it was a dilemma throughout the whole of Jose's period as well, whether Pogba plays here, and I think it's going to continue being. And Colm, you were saying, I think maybe we should play, whether it's McTominay, Matic, McTominay, Fred, and then send him further forward.
Yeah.
I think that is still going to be a big dilemma for the whole of the season. And for me, that's one of the reasons we are still conceding some of these ridiculous goals. As I say, the XG argument is as much about goals we're not scoring as about the goals we're conceding. As I say, you look at the XGs of Wolves, 0.31 for that game. They had no right to be scoring any bloody goal in that game at all.
And that's accurate. Anyone who watched that game would see that. And the goal they scored is it's a worldly, but it's a 1 in 100,
Yeah.
All right, then. I think that's us hitting about the 1 hour mark.
Dragged it out.
Well, at least we've taught you what XG is, right, Ed? You had no idea before today.
No, I just knew I didn't like it.
But yeah, I think we'll probably be back after Astana, hopefully.
So it's Leicester on Saturday and Astana on Thursday?
Exactly. And then, we're actually away to West Ham after that, in case we're not back. And then we've got the League Cup against Rochdale, which, again, I'm sure that game we should definitely be seeing a lot of the kids playing. For me, that game has to be pure.
I thought you were saying that game will be definitely winning.
Yeah, exactly. Could be that game when we get our next one.
That's the one we're going to pin our hopes on.
Well, it depends what kind of team we put out. I'll literally play the youth in that, so we'll see from there. But yeah, look, we're going to see a lot of different players now over the next few weeks as we play twice a week. It becomes difficult for us as well on the podcast schedule, always working out when to record when there's not a lot of time between matches. But as I say, we'll hopefully aim, I think, probably after that Astana game. Maybe it'll stretch to being after West Ham, but we'll be back in the next couple of weeks for sure. So yeah, that's good night from me.
Good night from me.
Cheerio.